Issue 69. The Omnivore creates a portal for the Chaotix to leave, and Sonic is convinced with some reluctance to leave the Metalics because apparently this isn't the right time to do so. The Metalics let them go because they have nowhere to run, and they get warped back to the altered Mobius, which is full of metal and metal Sonics, with a furious Sonic threatening to tear them apart one by one. Vector tells him that there's too many of them, and they need to take a look around and find out what's happened here. Vector? I think they already did. Sonic says a line that nobody would actually say unironically, asking him if he gets sick of always being right. Either that or this is a very self-aware Sonic for someone who's normally such a jerk and arrogant. A metal Sonic just stands there while watching them run away and points out the obvious about how they're escaping to a route with an overly long name. And if robots just stand there while reciting those names, Eggman or whatever should have made the name shorter. It's possible that the reason he thought it was fine to be so useless was because he knew the Chaotix were led into a dead end. Also, I have a hard time believing that the Metal Sonics would be perfectly fine with all looking the same. Maybe they don't have the programming to want to be unique individuals, but even Metal Sonic in the games wanted that, didn't he? To be an individual? Although the only way I could think of for them to differentiate themselves would make them look silly, as they'd each try to have unique color schemes or wear different clothes, and it wouldn't go well with the intimidating Metal Sonic look. Eventually you'd get Metal Sonics with rainbows in there, or Metal Sonics that have silly top hats. But if the Metal Sonics have the independence and intelligence to want to take over the world, instead of not caring where they live, I'd expect them to want to feel more like individuals who are actually living lives on the planet they bothered to take for themselves. I mean, why would they care about where they live, then? A person in a cloak tells the heroes to follow him down into a sewer manhole, and Sonic tells him while he's climbing down the ladder to not take photos of him because he's not looking his best. He looks the same to me. The Metal Sonics get blown up, and the cloak figure explains that the camera Sonic was talking about with the photos lines made a hologram of him and his friends, so the cloak guy set it up so that the Metalixes would all stop at the same place and be destroyed by a bomb. The story ends with the cloak hood being let down to reveal Kintobor in a normal human form, actually getting to do something actiony for a change. Shouldn't he have known that it was Kintobor from recognizing his voice? And Sonic gets mad at him right away for some weird reason for turning into Eggman, when he should know that 1, he should be mad at him for all the evil in the world being absorbed into his body in an accident, and 2, Kintobor's actual mind was separated from that body and put into a ring anyway, so the actual Kintobor as he knew him never became evil at all. He never got separated from him at all. So Sonic being mad at him suspicious feels forced. If he hated Kintobor, why would he have accepted him as an AI program, being in his base all the time, not being allowed to do anything prompted by the writers? Well, he does warn the heroes of robots and dirty stones from hacking the Eggman transmissions. I guess that counts, but I think that Porker Techno would have the technology to do the same thing. But it's very subtle. It's not very interesting. In the next story, Knuckles goes to the last part of Angel Island he's never visited. Probably because of the fact that it's haunted, so it's justified. A text box says that given the choice, he would never come here. He thinks that the bones in the graveyard have been magically preserved for centuries, and he goes down there to get some answers somehow, while thinking about how there's no zoot tubes to get him here, and he can't glide down with the unpredictable winds blowing. The ledge above him crumbles while he's climbing on it. Lucky for him, he has a soft landing, but then he loses his oxygen mask, which he wore to avoid breathing in the poison of a poisonous plant. He had an oxygen mask? He suffers from the poison for a bit, but I'm sure he'll be just fine. A ghost accuses him of killing him and everyone in the graveyard, so I guess these are the bones of people that Knuckles people victimize. I'm reminded of the Albionians and how they used to war with people like Thrash's people. Knuckles says that he's come to the Emerald Mine for an emerald to hold the power of his old Master Emerald after it was destroyed. So it's a good thing that power decided to just sit there instead of, well, alright, maybe it's in the robot head. He gets accused of lying for some weird reason, making me wonder why the ghost bothered asking him anything if he was going to disbelieve anything he said, and he says he feels weird and can't clear his head because of the poison, so at least there are some sort of consequences. The story ends with Knuckles being threatened by ghosts for being in Echidna. So at least there's some sort of history, backstory to the Echidna stuff in this comic, even if very little. In the next story, in River City Zone, Commander Brutus leads an attack to capture the residents on a bridge. When a trooper asks him why he wants to separate them into two groups, he blasts him for questioning him, and he says to herd them into the shuttle and make some of them stay with him. He explains that the shuttle's computer is programmed to fly to a destination of his choice, and he says that the rest of the civilians will come with him to Metropolis. In Grimer's lab, Grimer says he's just putting the finishing touches to the devices Brutus asked him to build. Grimer finishes making portable brain scanners despite not knowing why he'd need them. I guess he just loves inventing so much that he'll do it without questioning why out of excitement, even for a subordinate. Brutus says that the next time he captures one of Sonic's friends, he could absorb a copy of their brain patterns to discover their secrets. How could there possibly be enough room in his brain for two copies of brain patterns? He already has Eggman's mind. Brutus says that he wants to find out where Sonic hides and where the Emerald Hill people are. Grimer says the plan is worthy of Eggman and he's stunned by a laser. And Brutus says that he'll absorb a copy of his mind waves to obtain his knowledge, as I wonder how Grimer won't even be injured have to go to the hospital from that. He says that now he can build an army of badniks of his own that are loyal to him. Why did he need to knock out Grimer to do that? Eggman's an engineer. He was an inventor as Kintobor, so why wouldn't his knowledge from Eggman's mind let him engineer? The first two stories were by Nitro Kitchen. The first one is Sonic and the Chaotic Scout and Mobius after he was taken over by the Metalics time traveling and encounter an underground resistance group led by Kintobor, who was never turned into Eggman in this timeline, and Sonic hates him for some reason. Also, there's a time paradox I just realized. I guess I'm supposed to assume that Kintobor had the time to make Sonic blue and fast, and it was after that, since Sonic is blue, but before Kintobor could turn evil, that the Metalics took over the world, because the past Sonic could stop them, apparently. Because otherwise, Sonic's speed would be undone by time paradox, because the time travel would make it so that he never got his blue form in the first place. Why didn't the Metalics do that to him? Not to mention destroy all the heroes when they were really young. Again, they were forced to be stupid with the time travel so the heroes would have a chance. The second story has Knuckles wanting to replace his Master Emerald, go to a graveyard on Angel Island haunted by the bones of people who were killed by Echidna centuries ago. Bones that are magically preserved for some weird reason. You'd think if they had that kind of magic to preserve bones, they could have won the war. And the third story by Lou Stringer has Brutus make Grimer make some portable brain scanners, and he plans to use them to discover the secrets of the freedom fighters, as well as planning to make a robot army of his own. Again, I don't see why he wouldn't be overloaded from having more than one mind at once. There should only be room in him for one mind, Eggman's. Instead he puts Grimer's brain waves in him and isn't overwhelmed.